Alright guys, so today we are going to do a review on a 2014 370Z. Alright, so I've actually had this 370 a little over a year now. Bought it, already had a lot of the stuff done to it, did a few things. I'm going to go over some of the stuff that's done to it, and then we'll hop in and then we'll check out the interior, and then we'll go for a drive. So the most obvious right now, looks wise, is previous owner had custom did the duct in the hood there. He actually did some heat testing to kind of, figure out where to put it and, its effects as far as temperature and underhood temps and functional. Obviously, the just got the new Morimoto headlights on there. They definitely perform much better than stock. I've also did the custom around the DRLs with the switchback LED strips, basic lip, the raise wheels and center caps. Previous owner had done the Akebono upgrade for the brakes with the slotted rotors. Custom splitter, tinted tail lights, battle arrow spoiler, got the custom emblems. Sorry, it's a little dirty today, it rained the other day when I drove. Wrapped those with black chrome. I'm going to make the Z stand out a little bit. I have the Evo R third brake light LED. As far as performance, it has Z1 intakes, Z1 cold air intakes, Z1 test pipes, and then it's got that Rev 9 exhaust. Now the exhaust is temporary. It's going to be getting the Greddy Evo GT exhaust. That's actually what was on there before, and of course it's tuned by Z1 for that. So I'm actually going to put a link in the description. This specific car was actually in Z1's video for that exhaust, and also their intake video. So I'll have links in the description for those two videos if you want to see those, and kind of how it looked before with the previous owner. It actually had a couple of different stages that it went through with him. So I can't remember what it is in those videos, but you'll see those. Also has Z1 full face but unsprung clutch with the South Bend lightweight flywheel, which is super grabby, but still drivable on the street. This is pretty much a daily driver street car with the occasional track day, which is kind of what it's been built for. Suspension's got Stillen front and rear sways, Z1 front upper control arms, SBC rear camber arms, Z1 subframe collars, and solid diff bushings. I'm sure there's a few things I'm missing, but it's got a lot of stuff here and there. It definitely still is very streetable, but feels much better than stock. So we've talked about the performance in the interior or the exterior. Let's hop inside and take a look at the interior. All right, so moving on into the interior, pretty basic stuff. Now, talking about the interior, a lot of reviewers, and at this stage, it is dated. I mean, they introduced this car in 2009, and a lot of people talk bad about it. That being said, I actually really like the interior. A lot of people, like these interiors and these cars in general, just for their old school kind of analog feel. And I pretty much am in that camp. But even without that, I still think it's a very nice interior. And maybe it's because, you know, I mean, I have a Z32, I had a Z33, 350Z, and I mean, that was horrible. It was a big letdown, especially compared to even the Z32. And, you know, with the cheap plastic, you know, door and the waterfall right here, the cheap plastic all in one piece, and it's chipping, and the, you know, moving from the giant, you know, one piece of door with paint that chips and everything. You know, the 370 is definitely a huge step up from that. And I think it still holds up pretty well. Of course, you don't have the digital stuff in the dashes like, you know, most modern cars, and especially if you're talking about the tech package, definitely very, very dated. And I would not recommend, if you're looking at one of these cars, at getting the tech package. One, because the factory navigation is awful. The feature set isn't really that great, but it makes it much, much more difficult, almost impossible. I say almost because it's not, but almost impossible to swap it out for anything aftermarket with any kind of new features that you would like CarPlay, for example. You have to swap out the whole HVAC control unit and do some serious rewiring, and then replace it with a cubby, unless you just want a blank factory screen up there. This is not worth it, in my opinion. But again, you know, one of the things that honestly, the moment that I really decided I wanted to buy one of these many, many years ago, when they were new, is, you know, I'd had a 350, and you know, working in a audio shop, had one come in back when they were new, and you know, putting the radio in and backup camera and stuff, you know, I was just blown away by how improved the interior was compared to you know, what was currently, you know, in the 350s. And again, it's not a huge jump, but I mean, jumping from that cheap plastic, and you know, now you have the stitched, you know, material here, you know, separate pieces. The design is just better with the, you know, the knee bolsters, soft touch, you know, and, you know, actual stitched inserts in the door panels. I mean, so I really liked it. Now this car, it is not a huge difference. Now I do have the upgraded premium with the metal emblem floor mats. Did some carbon fiber wrap on some of the door pieces. I did recover the stock cloth seats with these Clasio covers, which really surprised me as far as quality. I'm going to have the door panels completely reupholstered with this same material. I have extra material. I'm taking it to a shop to have them do that. Basic custom shift knob, weighted, GTR button, of course, and of course I hooked up the iPad in here. Now, talk about the audio, because I have done a little bit with that. I mean, it's a basic Kenwood double din with CarPlay. I have an Alpine Power Pack pushing the door speakers. They're JBL components, and of course I have the kicker that I made a floor spare tire mount in the back with the kicker amp pushing it, and I mean, it sounds pretty good. Now, as far as the iPad, the only thing I use it for is kind of going back to that interior as far as the old tech and analog. You know, we don't have the digital displays, so I do have the odometer, OBD, Bluetooth connector with their setup, which gives me a lot of info, you know, intake, coolant, you know, I can toggle through power, torque, and some other things, and this is all customizable. Of course, it's got fuel economy info, and you know, there's a lot of info here that you can get into, check you know, this stuff. All of this is customizable. Check engine information, and then it also has data logging and track mapping as well, along with, you know, custom gauges and stuff. So it's decent. I mean, it's Bluetooth, so there's a little bit of lag on some things, but for the important info, it's spot on. Track mapping, you know, all that stuff, and you can run performance stuff, whatever. But I pretty much just keep the basic info here, and then I'll hop in between the gas mileage stuff, because, you know, mine is pretty accurate, but again, it's super common that they're not on these cars. So overall, I do like the interior on this particular car. Again, to have the radar detector, a couple of other little things here and there. Now, this was a base car, so like I said, it had the cloth seats, but it had some options. I do have the reverse camera. It's a 2014, so it wasn't mandated yet. With the home link, it did come with the illuminated door sills, a couple of other things. So now that we've gone over the interior, let's go for a drive. All right, so taking a quick drive, talk about the car. So in general, on these 370s, you know, watching reviews, you know, I was looking for another car, and I had thought about, you know, a Z in general, because I've owned several. And, you know, I was in between this and a couple of other cars, not Z's. And you hear a lot of talk about, well, you tend to see people in one of two camps, right? Either they think this car is really fast, which is not, or they think the car is really slow, which I don't necessarily agree with either. I think it's kind of in the middle. I mean, you hear a lot of people talking about, like, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of newer cars on the road that have more power, family cars. Like, I mean, a Camry has more power right now. But that's not the whole equation, right? I mean, with sports cars in general, a lot of times it's about the experience, the driving experience. I mean, there's a lot of older cars. I've had more powerful cars. I've had less powerful cars. Older cars in particular don't even come close. I mean, older Porsches, older muscle cars are just really, really low on power by today's standards. But, you know, they deliver something else, you know, a better driving experience. And that's what I feel this car does. You know, yeah, Camry may have more power, but I mean, it's geared for fuel economy. It weighs way more. There's no power to weight ratio. And I mean, you got to take into account too, you know, even looks. Like, who looks at you when you pull up to the gas station in a Camry, right? Nobody. So who cares, you know? And I mean, there's suspension, you know, all kind of other things. Like, you're not gonna carve a canyon, you know, driving on a mountain and have fun in a Camry, really. I mean, you can, but why? You know, do you really want to? And so, I mean, these cars are pretty decent, you know, for daily driving. They have a decent amount of power. They'll get up and go. You can mod them, and I mean, they can make pretty decent track cars as well. And I mean, this car is, you know, pretty much a daily street car with the occasional track experience, and it does that well. But the big thing that I noticed watching reviews is every reviewer, you know, after all of their talk of how outdated it is, or, you know, how bad it was at certain things, once they got on it, they had the biggest smile on their face. Every single one. And that told me something. It's that smiles per gallon that everybody kind of talks about. And this car definitely delivers as far as that goes. You know, it is a fun car to drive. I've really not had many complaints as far as the car overall. I mean, there are those usual quirks. I mean, it's a little rattly. With this exhaust on, I mean, it's a loud exhaust. I mean, it is kind of built for some track days, so the suspension's a little stiff. You know, it is lowered. That, you know, it is a pain, you know, if you're daily driving it, but it's a fun car, and it gets up and it goes, and, you know, if you want more, you can always add boost, which is the long-term plan for me. Soho A2A kit, adding that Stillman supercharger, it is going to be kind of the long-term goal for me with this car. But for now, I mean, I'm using it as a daily driver, and it's perfect for that. While being fun, and it gets plenty of attention. Yeah, it's not a Ferrari or a Lambo or any number of other cars that, of course, are going to get more attention. It's not a supercar. I don't think it's a supercar. There are people out there that think their Z's are some kind of supercar. I'm not one of them. However, you know, it is a nice car that I like to take care of and have fun with. So overall, I just think that these are, you know, a really good bang for the buck if you're buying used. I wouldn't buy new now, obviously, for two reasons. One, why are you going to pay full price for a 2020 that is almost identically the same exact car as a 2009? That's ridiculous. I would aim for 2014 and up used, just because of, you know, I think the updated design looks better. Also, the headers flow a little bit better. It's a little bit better design. They tend to make a little bit more power. And they're going to tend to be a little bit lower miles. So you don't have to worry about a lot of that stuff. You know, if you're one that wants new stuff for warranty, wait at least a year, maybe two. Obviously, they teased the new Z. I highly suspect it's going to be coming soon, and I highly suspect it's going to be announced at 2020 ZCon this year up in Nashville. I have a variety of reasons for that thought process. I will be there covering it, so stay tuned. But I would wait. So if you want something new with a warranty, wait. If you want a cheap, old school, analog sports car that's going to give you all kinds of smiles, get a used 370. I love it.